the number one thing I always thought about especially when I was going through the hardest times, is that if I can make it past every next step, even if it's a baby step, it's a win. And if you focus on that, you'll keep stepping forward.
What's up? Malcolm McCassie here. I couldn't be more excited for this session of Time to Breathe. Why? Things I don't even know about yet. I'm going to dive into a friend I got to know very well. One of my right-hand guys I got connected to because of her, and she is a legend. She is a creator. She's a top elite 3-time World Champion Skimboarder, and she helped me create and show me such a entirely new lens to creating. Amber Torrealba, I love you, girl. I haven't seen you in a while, but I'm so pumped for this.
So good to see you, Malcolm. It's good to see your face and good to talk to you. I mean, I feel like it's been forever because we used to chat all the time, just ideas and everything like that. So it's good to catch up.
These ones are fun for me because, like, you're one of those people, and of course, Patty. Um, you two are like so insane, but like you literally, your energy, your everything about you, and your creativity. I know you've worked for so many insane companies, but I literally love being on right now with you because I just, one, to pick your brain, two, to catch up. But man, I've never taken it back with you though. Like we're going all the way back to Palm Bay, Florida. You're in Laguna right now, but hey, wait, we might have to take this one back to understand where this gem of a creator and an athlete came from.
Man, yeah, that's where it stems, like the pine trees and the inland of Florida, the swamplands.
Yeah, what's Palm Bay? Like, I mean, I didn't know what Palm Bay was until you, obviously you guys, and then you connected me with Steven, who might even do some cameo appearances because you guys go way back. We're talking Radio Shack. We'll hit that later. But Palm Bay, Florida, like I understand Space Coast, this and that. It's a special place, and there's a lot of stuff that comes out of there. I need a little glimpse through your lens of just the childhood side of Palm Bay.
Yeah, I think I was really lucky because I grew up in Palm Bay in a time where it was like just cow fields and really nothing. And I think that's what made me like such a creative person, is because, you kind of just had this lifestyle where you're outside with, no devices, cell phones or anything like that back in the day. And you're up to sundown with just like empty lots and nothing to do but just get creative with your friends. And that turned into playing sports and action sports and making ramps and doing crazy stuff. And I think all of that just kind of like flowed into everything that I do now and just the way that my whole creativity works.
It's always intriguing to me, like how much is there a mom or a dad side to this that kind of like had sports, had this creative side, or was it just something that you just spawned off on your own?
Yeah, it was actually pretty cool. My mom and my dad were both really athletic. Like my dad was always into sports, like even played tennis in college. That's actually why he ended up here in the United States. So my dad was from Venezuela, and he got a scholarship to come here, and that's how he met my mom. And my mom like was originally from New York, so she ended up in Florida. So somehow both of these people ended up in Palm Bay, Florida, and that's where it all happened. And I feel like nowadays I go back to Palm Bay and it doesn't look the same. There's so much development, there's so much new stuff, and just it looks like your average, little city. And like I was saying back then, there really wasn't anything. So you really just had to get yourself into sports or something to just keep you busy and keep you out of trouble.
Yeah, I know sports definitely saved me. Motorsports, especially BMX skate though, and a mix. But word on the street is you were a pretty insane baller in high school. Varsity ball. I mean, hey, I got some leads from our boy Steven who might chime in, but you guys have such a friendship. Obviously, Steven is planted for life in Palm Bay, Florida, and you guys go way back. But he said your skills, varsity basketball, you were dropping some buckets.
And dude, like basketball was my life. It's insane to think that like I don't pick up a basketball nowadays. When I do, it's like no time has passed. But I dedicated my life from seventh grade after I was playing soccer from, when I was like 5 years old till 12. And then, picking up a basketball, I realized like, oh, well, there's this great opportunity in this, from middle school into playing varsity in high school and, playing all the way up until I graduated, doing the whole like varsity track, varsity basketball thing. And I really wanted to do the whole like go to the WNBA, play D1, and I really trained for it. I had overcame a lot of injuries. I broke my nose with like the biggest guy in the school playing flag football because I was just always doing something I shouldn't be doing. So my nose was busted to the side. I was wearing a mask like Rip Hamilton for like 2 years of my high school years. And I was just dedicated. Nothing stopped me. And it's funny because one day I just like woke up and I was like, holy like this is a business. Like I don't know if I make it to like, I'm thinking 5, 10 years after this. And I'm like, I get to the WNBA and people are just going to be trading me around and I'm just going to be living in places that I don't want to live in. And I don't know if that's my life because I came from being a little skateboarder back when I was like, 10, 11, 12. Like I was obsessed with skateboarding before basketball took over. And I was like in this whole like team sports and just basketball training every day because, your coach is like, don't get on a skateboard, like don't do like board sports. You're going to get hurt for your practice. And I was the captain and I was the captain of the track team. So I can't get hurt. I can't, be late to practice. I couldn't even be late to practice for my job. I was always working a job since I was like 14, trying to like hustle on the side. And my coach would be like, don't be late for practice. Like, not even 1 minute. I was like, I'm trying to make money, coach. Like, just hustling on the side. But all of those things combined made me realize it's like, oh, like, I want to like do what I love and I want to make money. And it wasn't in basketball. Like, even though I love that sport, like the track of traditional basketball was not going to lead me to like that freedom of like creativity. And that's what like brought me to True Skateboards and how I met Steven actually, because I just picked up a skateboard again when I realized that I'm not going to play basketball for the WNBA. What does it matter anymore? What my coach says, don't get hurt. I picked up a skateboard again. I picked up a skimboard because I started seeing that when YouTube was like popping off. Right around the time that I was graduating, YouTube was getting kind of big. So I was like, oh, this is a real sport. And it's like skateboarding in the water. And I was like still so hooked on skating and like that was my life, like that was like my first love. So I was like, like if I'm gonna do anything business, it's gonna be in skateboarding. So I created this skateboard brand called True Skateboards, sponsoring like kids in local neighborhood, trying to get them to contests and like helping like pay their entries, taking them to the contest. And then I'm like, Steven is like this dude that's just around like taking epic shots. Like I swear, like he's like this kid in the industry that was like look to getting like professional magazine style shots, but like in our little town. And so I was like, yo, I need to work with this kid for like my brand and like my team. And like, we need to just make this happen.
Wait. This is such an insane setup, though. To just Steven, this is going to be fun
I'm
for me.
hopping in.
No, this is
Yeah,
going to
get
be
in
fun.
here.
Yeah, jump in because this is going to be fun for me because, dude, you two are two of the most high positive energy to snap. But talking about true skateboarding, and I want to jump back in after, but I want to feel the excitement of you two talking about everything you're saying right now between the skateboards, the vibe, the love. Palm Bay, go for it.
So the craziest thing about True is like, I think True was kind of, for lack of a greater term, true to who Amber was in terms of like, she always had like the cards against her and like seeing it's like at that time, it's like sponsoring Tyson Peterson and Ish Cepeda at like 8 and 9. And then seeing like, they were random kids who like had literally all cards against them, family life, like the only things they really had going for them was their undeniable talent on a skateboard. So seeing that as like, okay, you kind of bringing them up as kids and now them being, I mean, they're on my wall. We got the Tyson and the Ish right there, signed naturally, had to, home team. But it's like, that thought always gives me chills. It's like from literally riding around Palm Bay in the Toyota Echo, the Amber True Skateboard, Silver Echo, looking like a roller skate shoe, filming them on a VX, doing these tricks that X and like I personally always, it's like look at that as like, man, I wonder how much that impacted their careers as kids, or like their minds in those moments. And like it's like doing that, even shooting photos. It's like those things we look at as like an everyday thing of like, oh, cool, he did a trick, I shot it, I have a company, he rides on it. That other side of unknowns, how like we just don't know, always just interests me so much. And man,
guys, that's amazing. Like, Amber, feed off of that for a second, because like there's so many things right now you're packing into such a young age, from your drive, your creativity. It sounds like persevering through hard times, maybe like, maybe the glass ceiling as a female, trying to climb and be creative and push your own dreams and your own goals. I just feel like there's so much packed into that, but what the drive to keep going, and what you did at this level to have two of Stevens, two of the biggest, skateboarders in the game, to come out of there. But you had this vision, and I know, your parents and tennis and everything. This is unique though. I know this about you. It's very unique. Like, dive into that.
Man, it's crazy when I think back. I was an 18-year-old kid. I don't know, like, my mind was just firing, and it's just like I was an 18-year-old girl in the skate scene when there was like never any other girls at the skate park, creating a skateboard company. Yeah, now that I think back, it's like all odds were completely against me, and for some reason, it's just I felt like this energy in these kids, and I don't even know what it was that drew me to it. And they were still developing their talent, so it wasn't like Tyson was Tyson that he is today. He was still like, you saw him and you knew. But there was just this energy of like, I felt these kids in their stories, and like the stories that I had growing up too. And like Steven and his drive, you just feel it. And there's just like this connection of like, yo, like these people, like this is my team. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, if there's this moment in life, it might not be forever, but like it was so cool that like we all kind of like got together, and like we're going to these random stops in like Melbourne and Palm Bay, and we'd be like, all right, like right here. And Steve's like, yeah, I think I can get this angle, and like sending Tyson off of I don't know how many stairs. And it's just like these kids, like I remember Tyson, it was like some of his first like contests. He didn't want to skate. He didn't want to skate in the contest at the time too. And like I would pick him up from his grandma's house, and just to think back of how young we all were riding around in the roller skate. Just like, I think we decaled it. I was like figuring out how to get the logo decals and everything. And it's just nuts. It's just like a crazy, like a connection that you can just see it. And it's really, really sick to see them nowadays. And it's like, it's almost like I can't even say I can't believe they've made it to where they are, because I saw it back then.
Yeah, man, I get the chills, because it's just like, I got to know you, and then you obviously, I was so grateful that we got to work together, and I got to see your creativity, yours and Patty's and whatnot. But it's like, once again, I was so spoiled to have you part of the Initial Friends family and doing project with Razor and whatever. And the stuff you guys did was so next level, and I'm always humble. But then, although my heart was broken when you guys said, happy for you, catch 22, right? But also I'm like, man, I'm losing the best creators in the game. And you said, no, but I got this guy, trust me. And you just looked me in the eyes. I just feel like, at least from what I remember, and you said, trust me, this guy is going to come through with flying colors. And that's our boy Steven here.
Yeah, dude.
that is me.
Steven, like from the day I met this kid, I'm like, this kid thinks like and is dedicated like I am. Like he knows what's up. And honestly, like it's so cool that nowadays me and Steven can always text each other and be like, yo, so I'm just thinking this, and like, what do you think? And just like bounce ideas off of each other. And it's kind of been like that from the get-go, like working together at True Skateboards, and then me one day just being at Radio Shack and being like, hey, I think I know this guy that, and then like, Steven, I think did you need a job at the time? Or I don't know how it kind of happened, but I was like, damn, I'm down to hire Steven at any time.
I needed a job because at that point, working in skateboarding, you already know how that goes. My hefty $50 a month paycheck was not quite doing it for me, and I had slightly larger aspirations. But I didn't want to work a real job either, so I was like, let me go to Radio Shack, have my manager as Amber, and just do whatever, because I knew like at the end of it, that it would be exactly like this. That is an OG Sony Premium
That is
mini
insane, dude.
TV tape from True Skateboards. I want
That's
to
it.
capture this, but like I was like, man, I gotta dig it up. Saw me leaving my screen, scrambling. It was for this.
That's
Exa
amazing, dude.
You guys know how valuable this is? I mean, there's so many kids out there grinding these days and trying to kind of figure it out, but the patience you guys both had, we're talking about Radio Shack. Amber, you manage, because obviously Steven, obviously we talk daily for hours. You managed $1 million store. You're at a young age. And once again, I grew up around 7 powerful women. Every brand I've ever touched, everything my heart touches is equality. I look people in the eye, all walks, all shapes, all skin colors, male, female. And I just have humble respect. But you push through, and I can only imagine, especially back then, some of the greasy Bob freaking tech guys, Duracell battery guys,
Yeah.
just nerding out on the freaking the electronic boards. I'm just saying, like, talk about like it's ping ponging to me about like how much takeaway there is on you guys and your success, which is today. But going back, it's such an inspiration for people to hear these stories. $50 a month, Steven, but then also the trust and friendship, relationships, timeless. You guys are still friends. So talk about the Radio Shack and just some of your, I mean, you guys both work there, so have fun with the stories. But Amber, like, that's a big feat just out of college. What, 20 years old, 20, 20, 20, 20, something like that?
Yeah, like it's crazy to think like so when I was doing True, I was 18 and the only reason I was like, you know what, I had to choose at some point I had a scholarship for UCF, so it was getting like, tough doing a full business and also trying to get your bachelor's degree and I'm like, well, I don't want to lose this scholarship and keep kind of like putting school to the side because it just wasn't fun for me. I just wanted to get the piece of paper and get out because I kind of felt like when I was in some of the classes, some of the things that I was learning were some of the things I've already taught myself and I was already applying in work by managing. And so kind of finishing college, I was able to finish early, which was nice when I was 20. It kind of gave me that boost to focus completely on work and then take Radio Shack to the next level. And, out they were able to give me that $1 million store, which allowed me to move back from Orlando to my hometown because leaving my hometown area in Palm Bay and Melbourne, it kind of sucked because, that beach lifestyle is not really there when you're living in Orlando. It's more of like a city type of lifestyle. So that was my drive really is to like grind it out in college and get back to Palm Bay or Melbourne, really just to the beach, anywhere that I can be at the beach. And, get a store over there, which ended up making me, a better career. But the cool thing that I feel like me and Steven always had is like we always trusted the process. So like even when Steven worked at Radio Shack, like and even when I was working, we were getting our job done, but we were still focused on like the bigger picture. And we both always knew that. And I think we had that like respect for each other where like I knew Steven wasn't going to like screw up my store and like not do well. And like just because he wanted to do his own thing, but he would take care of business at the store, but I was always going to like have his back if he needed to go take care of anything that he needed to do or he needed the hours that he needed for whatever he wanted to do. And I think a lot of me and my employees had that respect for each other. And I think that was what's really cool about Radio Shack is being a manager, I was able to kind of like choose my team and hire my team. And we all had like that respect for each other that we had, kind of like a bigger picture of the Radio Shack, but we had a job to get done and we kind of crushed it at our store. We had a lot of fun.
Probably my favorite thing with the Shack in general was the day you told me, "Hey, I'm quitting," and I said, "Cool, I'll quit too." Knowing it's just that trust in like, okay, she's quitting, she's starting an agency, she has one client, I'll make X amount, I don't care, I'm leaving too. And like that blind faith, how you mentioned, it's like, man, you gotta trust the process. It's like if it doesn't work, cool, adjust again, but you can't ever like waver and be like, oh, should I not? Yeah, dude, quit, try again if it fails. But yeah, that day, I remember that perfectly. Like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. It's almost like we live like different phases of our lives to even think like, man, there was this whole other era of like Visco agency when I was running an agency. And I was like, yeah, you did have full trust in me. And we just did it. Like we went in, we started with one client and we just went for it. We're just trying to pay our bills, make it happen, learn in this world also that didn't really exist at the time. Like, yeah, agencies were a thing, but back then when we were doing this, this was like the beginning of social media when people didn't even realize they had to market on social media at all or even have a social media. So me and Steven were out here trying to be like, yeah, so you need to pay us for marketing your social media when you don't even realize what it is or why you have it. And we were out there doing that, grinding content and like getting it done and like showing these businesses like how they need to be like having a presence online and properly and professionally. So it's insane to think like, yeah, it's a whole nother era.
Was that an age thing or like an era thing? Meaning, like, was it something built inside both you guys? I know the skateboarding, Steven, everyone's dream to be a pro, and then when you end up picking up the camera and becoming a photographer and at least being part of it. But is a lot of it because like you guys were on the forefront. Was it in your face? Because I mean, obviously, Radio Shack. Do Radio Shacks even exist anymore?
And I think some of them in random countries do actually, like Ecuador or something.
Like, I mean, for me as a kid, obviously being a little, and you guys, like, I remember like going with my grandpa to get whatever he needed, but we'd always go back to his full workshop in the garage and just build things. So Radio Shack meant we were going to build cool stuff, train tracks or something, you know.
Yep,
But
that was us.
no, it's crazy. But I guess do you guys feel you were? Was it a combination of it? It was, you felt it inside of you, this creative kind of journey, and you saw the forefront of like social media and stuff happening back then, or was it a combination of it was in your face because your age, or was it a combination?
That's a good question. I don't know if you feel the same way, Steven, but I feel like we were always on the behind the scenes part of media with this front facing huge industry that was growing. And I think that allowed me to see so much more from a different perspective and almost allowed me to kind of see trends ahead of time and also see like where to go in business and where to go in digital media as a whole. And I think it kind of still is that way in a sense now, like with how I transitioned from back then photos to like filmmaking and like, things are still transitioning now. But I don't know if you feel that same way, Steven, but you're kind of just in it and you're so involved that you start to see it.
I'd say like action sports and skate especially, I feel like led the way in that, for me at least. I started working at Focus at 17, so it's now like we're like 4 years later, maybe 3 years later. So like from the skate side, I see that okay, social's a thing, people are out there, but the common people, not action sports, not skate, still had this like view of like, no, it's just for kids. It's not a real thing. It's just entertainment. Skate, I think, in that aspect of the exposure, and then skate also teaches us you can eventually do a trick and be good enough and get a box from a brand, and it shows you it's like, no, everything is attainable if you actually try. It's like we were very alike in this of like my main goal from like everybody younger, from Tyson-ish, Bobby Bills, one of the best, most creative dudes ever on this planet right now, was showing them, guys, it doesn't matter. I gotta breathe first. Time to breathe, right?
Right.
Your geographic location does not depict your success. Your drive does. So for years, I always had it in me. I was like, I'm never gonna see California for X amount of years. I wanna, mainly out of like proving a point, I was like, you can climb this ladder in this industry in California, other side of the country, without ever being there. And I wanted to show them, especially as like, it felt as if it was like my duty almost. I was like their elder of like, guys, just trust it, do your best, and who cares if you're not out there or not. Skate, it's like always a matter of like, oh, my hometown sucks, I hate my hometown spots. Dude, are you kidding me? Shooting a magazine cover in the woods in Palm Bay just to kind of say we did it and further prove kids it's like it's okay to be in your hometown and try chasing a dream. Definitely get out if needed, but don't feel like it's not going to happen if you can't leave. And that, I think, it definitely transitioned to the professional side at that time. Is like, guys, I mean, if it's popping in skate, if social is a thing in skate, it's gonna be a thing for these regular businesses. And that selling point was so hard, but man, did Amber do it. Getting us our $3K a month client, I was like, yo, Lindsay, we're good.
We're keeping the house, baby. We're keeping the house. We're gonna pay the bills.
Oh
Um,
man.
the most excitement I get from this, which is why I was so pumped to have Steven, on. I mean, anytime, because Steven just brings so much energy to any conversation. But is the relationship, the friendship, the testament to like literally you guys having each other's back. The biggest thing I feel missing in today's world is truly unselfishly, no exceptions, having someone's back. And even if you guys don't talk for a month, 3, 6, you connect, you continue right where you left off. And I love this because whether it's Radio Shack, True, the agency or whatever, you guys had each other's back. And that to me is the biggest key to success. It doesn't have to be with a million people, but like they always say, if you can count your, friends on one hand, you're winning, or even 2 to 3 fingers, you're winning. And you guys, it excites me because I know you both, and to watch you both shining, climbing, and expanding, which we'll jump into. But man, relationships, true friendship, I think that's the biggest key that this world's missing.
Yeah, for sure. It's really, really cool to think that like it's exactly how you said it. I mean, I feel like even a year could go by and Steven could be like, yo, so this is going on. It's like no time has passed. We're like, all right, back on it. What do we got going on? What are we doing? What's happening in the world? Like, let's go.
Yeah. Go for it, Steven.
From a similar side of like drive and passion, it's like, man, what's crazy to me is like I remember the day that like it was like being at Radio Shack and Amber's like, dude, look, GoPro reposted me. GoPro reposted me, and like that achievement, and then hitting 20,000 followers on Instagram, that fight to 20K, and now seeing you at what 1.7 million on TikTok blows my mind. I had to hop in there because that just like between this tape, GoPro reposts, and 20K, celebrating that 20K on some Publix popcorn chicken or something at that time. Oh my gosh.
Dude, the reason why you got me so good with this story is because this is like a pivotal like part of like my whole taking actually all of this seriously is because and talk about people having other people's back. Steven was the one that like I knew this in my head, but Steven's always like the guy that's like gonna call out what I'm like thinking and like what I should do and probably like might be scared to commit to in business. So when GoPro reposted me, this is when Instagram, I was still not really taking it that seriously, and my handle was at Am's Too Real, and it was just not my name. And Steven, we were at Radio Shack just working, and he comes to the back room and he's like, "So, are you gonna be at Am's Too Real forever, or are you gonna be Amber Torrealba?" And I was like, "Dude,
That's heavy.
I was like, this is real. Like, I am just now getting recognized for the first time. I felt like that was like real to me. And I was like, is everyone gonna know me as Amps Too Real? So I was like, all right, like this is the time. So I took the hit, like you have the broken links for a while. Like people are gonna, click that. It's not gonna go to your handle once you change it. But that was the time where I was like, all right, like I'm gonna take this seriously and we're gonna do this because we have something going, and I'm gonna change my handle to at Amber Torrealba and start on my branding and do it legit. And it's things like that and people that like you need that'll be like, yo, like this is I know what you're doing, but like this is what you got to do.
That to me is so amazing because like you said, are you gonna be what was the name again? The old school.
Too real.
Are you gonna be? Did that line to me is so powerful in life. Like whatever age you're at, are you gonna be Amps Too Real forever? And then it's to me what he's saying, man, you are gifted, you are special. Your name is Amber Torrealba. Like, are you gonna go after? Like, let's own this amazing gift and who you are. And I think that word is so powerful for myself every day to wake up, time to breathe, that reminder to breathe, man, this is your life. And he said, are you going to be this little, short, quirky name forever? Or are you going to own your name? Like that's a testament to a friendship. And that's a powerful statement that obviously led to 1.7 now. We could jump into that too, because that's crazy. It's crazy because, you built so much and there's so much we're going to dive into. I honestly wanted to go, sometimes I like to go back because it's interesting how well poised you are and how, professional in the sense you hold yourself. I mean, I know there's so much stuff we'll dive into with Adobe, Max, and just a mix of your creating and what you're doing. But for me, the Radio Shacks, and I can only imagine what you had to push through, you know, being a female and a manager at a time where Radio Shack was like the 1600s. I mean, and you know, I can only imagine these entitled dudes, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. It was always
Yeah.
funny. The number one thing that would happen is, when you greet people, you know, you're just trying to be a good, like, employee or anything, really. Walk in the door, you walk up and you say, "Hey, how's it going?" And they'll always just look at you, and they go right past me to my employees, the boys, and they'll ask them the question, and then every once in a while, it'll be like a newer employee, and they'd be like, or send it right back, "Hey, Amber, what's the answer to this?" And then the guy is like, "Oh." It's like, all right. Well, I got that a lot. And it's just kind of one of those things, you know, in a male dominated industry, it's but I was very used to that, I think, growing up in sports and stuff like that. So it kind of gave me more drive, I guess, you know. If you think about it, like that's probably what just my mindset of like so much resistance growing up that it was like, all right, the one way to get over that was to find fuel in it.
Yeah. I like I get so like just wanting to dive in because it's like you to me knowing you now, and we're gonna get to the 1.7 where you're at and so much fun stuff and the success and the companies you've worked with, but you had a lot of challenges. Like, you were an elite varsity, you know, basketball player. You were a skateboarder. You loved skateboarding. You had True, right? That, you know, you created, you were helping people. You had the agency. You had a mix of all these things, and something kept you okay with pivoting and shifting. And did I lose the scholarship? I mean, you had a lot of things you had to face aside from relationships or anything else. Just that alone, like how do you help? How do you explain you being okay? Did you know, like, were you leaving something big, like, like, for example, basketball? You're that good. You're getting a scholarship, and you're like, no. And so I just feel like all these things, like you kept jumping, but look today it's going to lead us to the 1.7 on TikTok, but more importantly, why you have 1.7 and who you are. But like, how do you explain, or how do you help walk through what that's like being younger and having to walk away from things that are saying, no, this is the way, and you should take this path?
Yeah, I think from a very young age, it it was kind of very instilled in me from I started playing soccer from 5 years old, and I think it comes also from seeing, you know, my dad coming from another country, and kind of having to fight for everything that he had to, and seeing him kind of overcome that. I didn't even realize that actually until I got older, that I was like seeing and witnessing that, and that was part of what was driving me. But it was nice to have, like, you know, I didn't have like you know, the childhood of like my parents staying together and all that stuff. You know, I had a lot of ups and downs as far as family life goes. But I think with that is like where I found my drive, is because I had a lot of things that would come up in my childhood that I could have taken the road that was really bad, and I saw like finding, you know, like release and escape and like positivity through my goals that I was accomplishing. So like anything in my world could be crashing down, but the things that were working for me were the things that I was making and creating myself. So that was, I think, from an early age, something that was instilled in me, is that no matter what happens around me, if I create it myself, that I'm going to be okay. Because coming up in a tougher childhood, that you know, you just everybody kind of has their things that they go through, but that was what I always resorted to, was like my projects. And whether it was from a young age of just like creating something with I used to create stop motion stuff when I was really young. I would just mess around, and I couldn't even tell you what the program was back on those computers that you could take a picture however much, and I would set up like toys and do stop motion animation. And to think back, and it goes all the way back to that young, you know, focusing on projects and finding ways to express yourself in positive ways, instead of going down a path that, like, you know, I saw a lot of my friends in, we Stephen knows, in Palm Bay, like there's not that much to do, especially when we were growing up. So you could easily get yourself into like a lot of stuff, and people in my neighborhood were definitely indulging, and it's you kind of you got to make a choice, and those are the choices that I had to make, was sports and things that were driving my life further. And I didn't want to, of course I didn't want to let my parents down, but it was a lot of, I had to learn a lot of intrinsic value with like what I was doing.
Definitely. Did you say your parents, I'm sorry, they stayed together or they separated when you're
No, my parents were divorced since I was 5. So, that was something that, like, I was just such a young age that it was never really, something you really remember. You don't remember too much of, like, your parents, like, this life of, like, family together like that. So,
my parents separated when I was 2, and so my dad was busy. He's on his fifth wife now, happy, but work's charging, and so my mom was like my rock, my best friend, and challenging upbringing and stuff like that. So I can relate. It's interesting, like with all of us on this, on this time to breathe, just kind of opening up, is it's so interesting, Amber, how much I like respect and appreciate like you, and it's cool hearing more from the backstory, because you're such a remarkable person. It's like, wow, what things carved and created and gave this perspective to everything leading to today. And that's why it's so intriguing to me. And I know Steven, you guys being fresh, close friends, there's so many trials and tribulations and just challenges that you could have went the other way easily. And you guys both, much respect. Like even myself, like I was around, there's FBI cop bus from helicopter rope swings through the windows. We had enough ether in our garage to blow up the neighborhood. I mean, a lot of stuff I saw. And why did I not get into drugs? Why did I not start rebelling harder? I loved rock and roll, punk music, Beastie Boys. I was going to skate parks. I was building my own rail slides. But like, it's interesting when you could take something like that you would assume it's going to take you down a dark path, and you flip it and use it as motivation.
yeah, 100%. And it was hard to see like people that you're close to like sometimes slip, and you really had to always kind of check yourself, especially when you're around that kind of environment, being in skating or being in all these action sports, or just yeah, you're around it. And I was very fortunate to have like my mom also as like my rock. She was kind of the one that was, she was she's always just very positive in any situation. We could be doing crazy stuff, and at the end of it she'll freak out and be like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to break your head," or typical mom stuff. But at the end of it she'll always be like, "You're going to be okay." She was always that kind of mom. And I really did appreciate that, because my dad was, coming from another country. He was tough. Like there's no sugarcoating the relationship I had with my dad. And it made me into like who I am now. But it was nice to have my mom that was kind of the opposite. That was kind of everything's gonna be okay. Like, I don't know, but you'll be okay. And my dad being like so logical and like everything, you know, very, very analytical. And I kind of had to be the best at every sport I did, because if not, he's getting kicked off the soccer field. So that dynamic is interesting, having parents that are like opposites. And it kind of, I think that did a lot of shaping as far as like my mindset as well.
I know all three of us on here are in amazing relationships, but Steven's parents are still together. But mine, you're separated. Did any of that kind of affect like earlier relationships for you? Because I know for me it was always challenging, because I was trying to figure out how I attracted who I attracted, and sometimes it was harder relationships. Did any of
Yeah.
that did it play out in any interesting way? 'Cause sometimes for me it definitely was like, once again, we're all so grateful to be in these amazing relationships. I know Patty is awesome, and I always love seeing you guys together. Steven and Lindsay. But did that play a role in early relationships for you?
100%. Thinking back, I was like, wow, like there's so much that was going on. And I mean, even Steven probably witnessed so much of like my emotional state of having to like be present at work with my relationship that I had in Florida. I had a very long term relationship, and right before I left to California, and I learned so much from that relationship, because there's so much you don't even realize is going on until you're away from it. And that was one of the hardest things that I had to do was sign a lease in California, basically forcing myself because I didn't really know how to leave that relationship and just fully get away, right? You have those relationships where you're broken up and then you're kind of back together and then you're broken up and then you're kind of and you just can't really figure yourself out. And it was kind of that reset button that I needed to move to California. I mean, for both parties, because we ended up better without each other. But that was definitely like having that early life of um things maybe that you didn't see in the right ways, or you learn in the right ways, like affecting the relationships that you choose and how you are in them. And I'm very thankful that I was able to accomplish the things that I did, having relationships and making mistakes and going through my early 20s. Those are pivotal years of learning, to say the least. And when I was 25, when I moved to California, that was the one of the hardest times in my life, and the moment where everything started changing and circuits started rewiring, and me started seeing everything from a different lens, being away from that life in Florida and basically being completely detached. Because when I moved to California, I moved completely alone. I did know a couple people out here, but I didn't know them like as well as like hanging out with them one time. So, and maybe seeing them at like skim contests. So that moment of like complete like being with yourself and analyzing everything you've went through and things you've done and like the way you were in past relationships and really trying to change that. That was huge for me.
I'm gonna take a deep breath right now because this is insane. Like, I mean, it's insane in so many ways because we're gonna jump into it. I'm gonna just do a fun recap. I'm gonna go, wow, you two, the friendship, growing up, the Radio Shacks, the skateboarding, the varsity basketball, all the agencies, the true skateboarding, believing in these skateboarders that are now top skateboarders, pushing through into all forms of athleticism. I'm gonna bounce into the excitement of the backstory to now 3-time world champion skimboarder, super athlete, super human, and I mean, super creator. Like, I mean, now the build up to me was like, I wanted to know and understand more because you seriously blow me away every time I see your work, your creativity. You're always on the forefront of Instagram, on TikTok, on how you edit, how perfect your transitions are. Let's go into just you as an athlete. I got to go into that. I mean, 3-time world champions. If someone doesn't know what skimboarding is, you can explain it more. And sometimes I butcher it, but I think it's such a fun transition between skateboarding, wake surfing, just a mix of things all together. But what you do and how the level you've taken it to, and your events in Mexico. Let's go into just the excitement and the athletic side of Amber.
Skimboarding, it's given me, I mean, so much since the moment I stepped on a board, because it was such a small sport when I got into it. I mean, it still is a growing sport, but the fact that, like you said, it feels so much like a mixture between like skating and snowboarding and surfing, and the fact that like when you teach people, it's so fun because they're like, "What the heck?" Like it looks so much easier than it really is, and the learning curve is insane. I've never done another board sport or like sport that the learning curve is like not you can't just jump on it and get a wave your first time, just feel it out. Like it could take you an entire year to even get to a wave and learn how to do that. And that's what's so fun, is the challenge behind the sport. And getting into it thinking that it was just going to be something that was, playing off of basketball, and I was just going to be able to, keep that competitive side of me, because losing that after playing basketball is tough. Like, thinking that you're not going to be an athlete anymore is scary, and finding, competition in skimboarding was amazing. And, working at Radio Shack and having people like Steven on my team to be able to hold the store down when I would go compete trying to become a professional skimboarder. That's the reason why this all happened. It's just crazy. It's like the perfect storm of like finishing college and having that in the bag and knowing that like, all right, I don't need to focus on getting this piece of paper anymore. And I can just focus on my business at Radio Shack. And now I got my team, and I know they got my back and I got their back, and let me go compete. And if my district manager comes by, my team's going to hold it down and I'm going to be able to go there, try and win, and then fly back home. And then, all right, we're back to work. And what happened here? And that was all happening. All this stuff was happening simultaneously. And then doing the agency just so I can stay afloat, because skimboarding wasn't a big enough sport to be, there was no girl skimboarders in the world that I saw that would go to competition and then go back home and skimboard. All of them went back to their normal jobs. And I would go to these competitions and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why? How? Like, why is there no true professionals living off of this sport? Like, there's got to be a way, there's got to be a crack. And that's basically what I started doing, is using all these skills that we all were working towards, like even me and Steven in the skating industry, and learning of like sponsors and brands and the behind the scenes and how it all works with partners. And I said, like, I'm just going to go manage myself and get my sponsors myself. And I want to be the first girl in the world to live off of skimboarding and show that you could do this and you can make it happen. And you can have anything that you want if you just make it work and you have the right partners and the right people behind your back. So it's really cool that after a few years of competing and eventually turning pro, that I was able to gain the sponsors while in Florida to start living off of it. And now it's crazy to think that, I'm still here, like after all the doubt that people would joke about at Radio Shack, and like the other managers would call and be like, "Hey Amber, so you gonna live off the internet again?" Like real talk. These are real conversations. And I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna go live off the internet and make my sport real and get sponsors and try and win and show people that there's a path to do this, and it doesn't have to be traditional, but you can do what you love and you can make a living. It's crazy.
Gosh, you use the word simultaneously and through that whole thing, and it's so interesting that like some people think that they need just one thing to get there, but you just have it's like, no, you packed a lot of things to kind of achieve your dreams. And I guess when you reach some of those world championships, you reach the sponsorship and certain stuff. And I mean, the sponsors, I gotta talk about this. You're like the dream athlete, right? You're funny, smart, good looking, super stylish, but also you're an insane content creator. You know how it should be seen and shot. I've seen you slam from just full break to sand, and just get dragged across. I mean, we could probably, is that Steven's dogs?
That is a delivery for my samples.
Oh.
I'm launching one of my brands, and I'm actually kind of stoked. I knew my dog was going to do this in the middle of the podcast.
Oh, dude, the dog's got to jump in though. I think it's great. I mean,
she's holding down the fort. She's going to hold it down for a minute and then she'll calm down, but I don't know if I might need to tame her for a moment.
I mean, if you need to take a quick break, I'll have Steven go off on a story about something if you need to go.
She'll stop as long as I just tell her to stop. But I probably need to tell her to stop. But I am repping the mended, so we're good.
Oh dang, that was good. Repping the villain. Steven, the hearing about her career and hearing about her, what she's done, and known her for so long, like give me some supporting around like that, 'cause it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, dude, like it's one of those things where like you're not even surprised it happened. Everything she went through literally just kept fueling the fire more and more and more. And it's like, guys, you're creating a bomb and this thing's going to explode. And then you see it explode. And it's like, you can't even kind of like wonder how it happened because you knew it was going to happen.
No, that's insane. Awesome. Hey, say we could drop the mic. Steven he just put you on a freaking mountain right now. No. But I got to work with you a little bit, we were together back when, but like Blenders, Freestyle, Victoria Skimboards, you've had, to me, how I look at them, some of the most successful collaborations. And back to me saying you're like you're rocking Mended right now, but I'm saying you're like the dream, like you literally just check off every amazing box. And you're just down to earth always. But talk about your new brand at Blenders, Freestyle, Victoria Skimboards. I mean, and your new brand. Let's hear about just the exciting stuff happening.
Man, I feel like when it all comes down to it, it's all authenticity and loyalty is how I see how all this stuff unfolded is because back when it all started, I think about even freestyle. I've been with freestyle for over 10 years. I've been with freestyle since like 2014. I'd have to like look at the date, but it's crazy to or maybe even 2013 actually, and what was going on is that kid in me, that skateboarder mindset, honestly, I feel like all this came back down to, like, being a little kid skateboarder and wanting to live that life and just seeing, like, oh my god, like, your favorite skateboarders having these sponsors and their shoes and their hats and their sunglasses, and it was just everything, and so my mind was lighting up, and I'm like, "Alright, like, I wanna be a pro skimboarder. I need a shoe sponsor. I need everything that I'm wearing because this is what I wear authentically, and this is what I'm gonna walk around with, and if I want, to represent a company, I wanna do it, the right way, and I don't wanna wear something that I wouldn't normally wear or this and that, so, to be honest, I was just reverse engineering the process, and I was like, "I love freestyle watches, so let me go to their page and see what they're all about and what they like to market, how they like to market, how they like to represent their brand, and let me start making some content that stoke them out." And then the same thing went from, like, everything from, like, skateboard brands. I remember back when Instagram was really, really young, Penny Skateboards was one of the biggest account, crazy enough, that was on Instagram, and I just saw their vibe, and I was like, I love skateboarding and just cruising, and, when I'm not at the skate park, I'll just get a penny and skate with my dog and take some content, and, like, it was it was just a trickle down effect of, like, every brand that I would, like, reverse engineer this, like, process of, like, "Oh, they need this photo on their account because they don't have this type of content to market their brand. Let me create it for them." They would just be down and they would post me, and then that would boost it more, and then I started realizing that, like, I understand how this works, and I can actually help other brands too, and that was when I started working on the back end of a lot of brands as well, and helping build those brands and helping them market their companies and run their social medias, and when Hitcase was huge before the iPhone just made a wide lens, and I don't think the case even had so much purpose anymore, but HitKiss was, like, the sickest iPhone case back then. Basically, making your iPhone into a GoPro was literally, like, one of my favorite partners of all time back in the day, and one of the reasons that I came out to California, like, them giving me that opportunity of, like, giving me, like, a full ride sponsorship of, like, working for them and being a sponsored rider, um, yeah, it's just crazy to think, like, how far this has all come and, like, full circle as well, you know? It's insane.
I feel like hearing that you literally choose, you set your vision, but you choose your outcomes, right? You're like,
Right.
'cause the system would say, "Oh, your options are A, B, and C," and you're like, "No, there's like 17 other letters that I'm gonna, put into this alphabet right here of options." And you kind of almost manifest or create your own success by looking into what it is and how you could bring value. I mean, because I feel
Yeah.
like you got paid. You should get, but I'm pretty sure you get paid sometimes on both sides because yes, you're an athlete, so they're paying you. You've been with, like you said, freestyle since 2014 or whatever. But then all of a sudden they're like, wait, what? You're crushing it here, the exposure, the look, the vibe and everything, but then the content side is smoking everything we're doing. And so let's just bridge the gap between two. So, hey, we'll pay you for this and this.
Yeah, it's really cool to have that relationship actually. That's what's made it really fun, I think, along the way is being able to talk to these brands, like, at the same level in a way, like, I realize that, you don't have to treat me like just some athlete you're throwing some money at because I'm on a board, is like, I can sit down in your conference room and, like, we can throw ideas back and forth, and I can help you, like, give you a completely different perspective because I'm also an athlete, like, the greatest part about it, and I would talk to, like, even Adobe and other companies like that is like, I'm on both sides and I've been on both sides for a long time. Like from having my skateboarding brand at 18, like I've been the one that sponsors and chooses people to sponsor, like Ish and Tyson. And then I've been the one that wants to be sponsored. So it was one of those things that I actually wanted to bring into the industry of skimboarding and help other riders is because the number one thing I would see in like the young industry of like skimboarders is like they wanted sponsors, but they didn't really know what a sponsorship was, and they were just like, "I want a sponsor," but yeah, can I have some free stuff? And so like teaching them like, hey, like sponsorship is actually a partnership. Like it's what's in it for both of you guys and how can you guys grow together and where can you take this to the next level for both brands as a whole because you are a brand as well, like as a rider, as an athlete, as somebody that's influencing other people because you are doing what you're doing on your board. And so seeing this whole like full circles perspective is what's kind of always given me like not necessarily like a leg up in like knowing what's going to happen, but really just I guess connecting more authentically with brands and like you said manifesting the things that I want because I never would want to represent something that wasn't for me and it's some people would say it's a blessing and a curse, right? To like maybe leave some money on the table if it doesn't align with who you are. But for me, in the long run, if I'm sleeping well at night and my community knows that I'm what I represent is always something that I'm authentic, I'm behind, and I believe in, then it's just overall the longevity of it is what's made me be sustainable and keep this career and still be defying the odds of, living off of skimboarding as a pro female.
Dude, you were speaking so like calm and collected right now. You are absolutely fire. Like on all levels. Like I mean, I've worked for so many companies, built global companies, building companies again. I've worked with the best of the best athletes in the world, including, yourself, on levels and friendship. But man, you say it so softly. I was just sitting here almost putting myself in a seat of someone that turned their head to you, like, hey, I'm Amber, I'm gonna this sponsorship of that, and they turn their head. I just see this fire every time lighting under you and then completely just breaking like levels, cracking Da Vinci codes. And on these people that are so blinded to the innovation, the evolution, the individuality and like the creativity that can live within a human like yourself. I just envision like this. And every time you okay, and then like they had like people having to come back and go, hey Amber, remember me? Yeah, is your neck okay from the turning? You're like, no, yeah, like because like I know it wasn't easy, right? But you always got creative and always found ways. It should have been way easier because life should be humble, should be open, no question. Hey, let me hear. Oh my gosh. But you probably intimidate a lot of people in a good way and a bad way, right? Catch 22. Because you come in and even I got to work with you. And luckily I have no ego, but I'm like, dang, this girl's fire, dude. She just came in with some heat. I'm like, do I pretend like I'm going to up with some creative or do I just accept this is badass and go, let's just run with it? Amber, whatever you just said right there, let's just go with it. No, but the turning of the heads and the fueling of who you are, like you're saying things so softly, and I had I got energized because I'm like hearing you just deliver it so peaceful. That I'm like, no, you literally have pioneered lanes since you were in high school or even prior. Like probably junior high school and before. It's absolutely amazing. But but how you think and how you care for both sides of the equation. It's like LinkedIn or Malachi, right? It's like there's someone trying to get a job and there's someone trying to get someone good to do the job. You're
Hey,
literally the Amber in the middle. Normally it's Malcolm in the middle. You're Amber in the middle, literally going, hey guys, let me bridge that gap on a whole different level. It's insane. I got fired up. Sorry, because like you're saying it's so simple, but I'm like, no, you're like, and I know you haven't even warmed up yet. Do you feel that right now? Do you feel like you haven't even warmed up? You're just getting warmed up?
I feel like it's pretty crazy. Like sometimes when we have these conversations, and it's really awesome having Steven here to remind me of so many different parts. Is because like when you talk about this, it really just it makes you realize how much you compartmentalize because you have to be able to be all these different roles and like you have all these goals and want to accomplish all these different things and you forget like these different phases of your life to be able to have this type of mindset and to get you to where you are now. But I think a lot of us maybe it can relate to having a part of their life where maybe they weren't all in on the thing that they were the best at and you're good at a lot of different things and you have to find a way to like make that happen and make that like work for you and you may face that day where you're like, oh, like what if I would have went all in as a skateboarder at 12? Would I be like where Sky Brown is right now? Like would I be like the next like would I be at the Olympics if I just would have done skateboarding and not done all these different things? But when you say all of that, it's really cool because my whole background and my story as hard as it was and I acknowledge it. I don't think I would change it for anything because of how much perspective I do have.
You remind me of a Pastrana or something like that. Cause like, I mean, he got, oh, you have to stay focused on motocross racing. He's like, no, I have this vision. I have this bigger thing. And suddenly there's like, what, 1,000,000 broken records. He's now an amazing dad. He's got the kids. He's just continuing to, the Nitro Circus is about, and I know you're the same way. It's about your friends coming together and winning together. Right.
Yeah.
And there's
Totally.
nothing there's nothing I love more than talking, as you can tell, about other people and just giving just how I feel about them. But I'm going to take a time to breathe moment, pass it to Steven, because this is what friendship's about. Because I hear it all the time. Steven, just do your Steven little joy here and talk about Amber.
What's crazy is Amber's probably one of the longest, actually not even probably, Amber's one of the top 2 and only 2 longest running relationships I've ever had in my life. And the other one, naturally, is John Hadley Amber. So it's like you in that rank, it's a special thing to me. But it's like, man, it's like hearing this as a listener and as a friend, I'm equally blown away. I'm like, that's Amber, go Amber, go Amber. But also, I'm like, I guess a proud feeling. It's like, wow, like this is my friend I knew since she was literally just a backwards hat girl at the skate park, skating the bowl, trying to just do something. And now it's like, oh, she did it and she's still going.
With the hat still backwards.
Hat's still backwards. Take note. Yeah,
no,
man.
I had to run it to Steven because I know he could go off for hours because he always does. We always talk about you. So I want to hear about your new brand. I mean, there's a lot of things I love. Health and wellness, I know you're big into. We got to talk about, Pilot SS713 Patty, I mean, just droning Miss Daisy out there, just going crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, so maybe we could break it down in 3 things. Let's talk about your new company, because you mentioned it a little bit ago.
Yeah, so I'm actually really excited for so the film that I came out with and it was released last year is called No One, and that plays off of the whole like idea of coming from, being no one and then becoming someone. And the funny thing about this movie is it's a short film that was the tie between your average skate or surf film where it's all just music. It's just like sick cuts to music and then the quick little like cuts of like who the writer is and intro. It's a mixture of that and story, and I wanted to blend the two of like all these skate films and sick surf films I saw growing up, but then also add a story to it and a background of like why it exists. So that's the movie that I came out with last year, and that was a short movie, only about 20 minutes long. And the most exciting thing that's playing off of that is the documentary that I'm working on to be released next year. And that I've been working on since I started filming that movie, and things just keep happening in my life. And I'm like, holy crap, like this kind of has to be in the documentary. And like, let's put it to this year. Let's put it to that year. Like, so the cool thing about No One is it's become an entire series. It's become an entire brand, and it's become a way for me to be able to give back and continue to do the things that I always kind of wish that I had as a skimboarder growing up, and kind of this path that I wanted to see happening. I'm kind of trying to create that for other people. So No One as a film is also going to be a documentary, and that documentary after it is a kind of about my life and this whole thing about we're talking about, actually, like a lot of this, how I got to where I am and how I met the girl that also inspired me to make the film originally. We're going to be, continuing that series to have a platform to be able to tell other women's stories around the world, and the girls that I have been working to help sponsor from, Mexico and Brazil and different parts of the world. Like No One is going to be like this platform to be able to tell stories. And recently I'm finishing up like the launch of the website, which they'll be able to actually have like the shirts and like different types of clothing and jerseys that you'll be able to wear. So that way you can represent, your favorite like women pros on the tour. You'll be able to wear the jerseys kind of like, your favorite soccer player's jersey or whatnot. So there's this other thing that I can't exactly talk about right now that I'm excited about next year.
There
But it's
she is.
also launching as well that kind of goes and plays along with this. But I'm really excited to kind of launch something for the community next year that doesn't exist in skimboarding and has never been done in skimboarding. So, and that's going to be the blend between like bringing creators into one space and in like enticing more filmmaking and skimboarding, and really just bringing everything full circle of what I've been doing. And the whole reason why I make films is to kind of give back to the community and inspire other people to kind of follow their dreams and do the same.
I mean, if I didn't have a hoodie on right now, I'd just the chills. My arm hair would be like Don King stuck on my arm. That is unreal. I'm so inspired by that, and just know from both Steven and I, like, I mean, between Mended, we got a kids supplement company called Little Diamond, all wildcraft harvested organic. We would love to back anything and everything we can. I know we're we're in the startup phase, but we're building and making moves. But absolutely, I can't wait to see the women coming out, because like I've always, even right now with Mended, we have this little girl racing who's like she's 10, gonna be 11 soon, and she had how many, Steven? Was it 100? Was it 100? How many views? Do you remember?
I think like 100 mil.
100 mil
Oh
just on one. She basically, she's so cute. She races motorcycles, and she got a bloody nose from her friend bonking her. She went out riding and it started bleeding when she was out there. She comes in and her mom just happened to film it, and she said, "I'm just living the dream, Mom, living the dream." That's so cute, and it went viral to like 100 million in like a couple weeks. But
Yes.
my point is, there's so many amazing women out there that actually blow me away all the time. And also, I love when I see Mr. Wonderful talk about female CEOs. He's like, yeah, all women running my top companies, like that, all the companies I've invested in. So I say this sincerely because I'm so humbled. It's not just my mom was my rock or the people around me, but I guess sometimes, like, Steven, sorry, bro, but Steven's right there, but he's the male version, but that's goes back to your guys' friendship. But man, I can't wait. Do we need to talk about real quick? Do you need to plug where they can see these things, or anywhere? Is it just across all platforms, or where?
Yeah, it's pretty easy, which is Dicers. You can find it on my website or my Instagram or on my YouTube, but it does live on my YouTube as far as watching the movie. It's definitely a good watch for anyone too, which is nice. It's not really just focused solely on women or just skimboarders. It really tells a story that can kind of relate and attach with anyone that can kind of put their own story to it. And our whole point with no one is everyone has a story, but who's writing yours? And that kind of comes from the fact that, like, I was able to kind of manifest and create this path that didn't exist in skimboarding, and that other people can kind of do the same. And the whole thing of what we were talking about, even from the beginning of what me and Steven were doing, everything I feel like we were doing was always at the forefront, and it didn't exist, and we were still doing it. And that's kind of the whole aura of my brand, and everything that we live by is, there's a way to do it. And that's what I work on with the girls that I try and help sponsor as well. Is, we may not, we may be a small company, just like, you were talking about with you, like, being involved in these things, like, you may not know how to make it happen, but we always find a way to make it happen. And that's what our, like, brand and giving back to, like, the girls in skimboarding and everybody in skimboarding, and hopefully trickling into, like, all of action sports as well. Like, that's our mission.
Oh man, I just want to hang out, Steven. We probably got to fly out to Laguna, not to a basketball court though, because I ain't trying to do the b-ball with her. I know she's like the secret professor, just comes out, just like
Dude, I need to be on a court one day again. It's been a long time.
but you said when you jump back, it continues right where maybe a little rusty, but
Yeah, we'll see. Well, I'm very curious, actually. I need to get out there.
well, everybody needs to. I just want everyone to, like, go check you out. I know we're gonna chop this up in so many great ways, like with shorts and stuff, because there's so many, like, powerful things in there. But as a strength to an individual who happens to be a woman's power to the woman, and just like everything you've done and everything you pushed through and persevered, I know that, like, that you couldn't tell us hey, I can't totally spoil it, but this has happened. You're always innovating. I know you've done huge creative projects with Red Bull, with VaynerMedia. I mean, we could go on for another hour, but you, to me, like, are the just perfect model of reminder to breathe or time to breathe, because through this whole conversation, you've had about 25 pinnacle points where you took a deep breath, you said time to breathe, and you kept pushing. You said, I got oxygen in my lungs and I'm gonna keep going. We always ask this question at the end, when we're in this, is what is time, when you hear time to breathe, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing that would mean to me is to take a step back and look at the big picture, and realize that you're here now, and that's always a win when you can take, like, the number one thing I always thought about when especially when I was going through the hardest times, is that if I can make it past every next step, even if it's a baby step, it's a win. And if you focus on that, you'll keep stepping forward. And that was the thing that's always kept me moving, is not focusing on failures, just learning from them, taking every baby step forward that we can make it, and we're still moving and we haven't quit.
Steven, it would only be fair for me to give you a final parting note because you always have the little banger punchlines.
How do you want me to follow up that? Is all I'll say. I was like taking notes. I'm like, ooh, that's fire. Maybe that's our opener. And I'm like, dude, don't pin that one on me, dude. Come on.
Hey, we can also give Patty a shout out too before
Oh
we
yeah,
close it out,
right.
because I forgot to give him a shout out, but he's definitely a huge part of why a lot of the content that we're creating now is so epic, and the FPV flying that you see is at Patty Mac, and he's crushing it, and he's not here now because he's on a gig flying in Utah somewhere, so he's flying some crazy like epic off road vehicles and chasing them.
Yeah, we got to give Patty props because Patty not only is a super athlete, his contagious smile as well. I mean, every time I see
Yeah.
him, he's so fired up. He's so happy. We both have freckles, so there's that brotherhood bond there. But he literally is one of the most insane, and I know I won't even compliment it enough, drone pilots and the innovation you guys as a couple. But I mean, dude, give Patty a few more props because what he's doing, I'm seeing the stuff he's posting, and I don't even understand how he's navigating that at all.
Yeah, he's been super busy, especially nowadays, flying out the same day, shooting, flying back, and then getting prepared for another gig, first thing in the morning, and, driving out to Utah from here. And he's been shooting lately with some really sick cinema cameras for some, I'm not sure if I'm able to talk about the companies that he's shooting for, but huge car companies. And like, he's just the biggest thing that I'm stoked about is like, he's smiling all the way through this. He loves FPV droning, and like when you have a calling and it pays your bills, like, cool. He's stoked. Like, this is his jam. And I remember seeing FPV back in 2016 for like the first time, maybe 2017. It was like super early, and I was like, Patty, you should get on this. And the day that he picked it up, he was hooked, and still just as stoked and killing it to this day. Like, he's overbooked eventually. Like, eventually, I don't even know like what he's gonna do. We're working out to a little team for him. So
Well, Patty, Amber, both the couple, the combo, dynamic duo. We love you guys. You make me I'm just taking oxygen, time to breathe. Thank you for this. We're gonna have to bring Patty on, so we'll just leave it at that because we got to hear more about this whole drone life. And well, actually, sorry, Patty's too busy. We can't get him on, but maybe we got to shoot for the stars. But Amber, we love you. We appreciate it, man. You're so awesome, and I can't wait for everyone to really that if people don't know who you are to kind of come across your work, your skimboarding, and just what you're doing because it's Steve and I can't wait to do more stuff with you. On that note, we're gonna take a last breath and tell many more. But thank you for your time.
thanks, guys. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Don't do it, Steven. Don't do it.
No,
Hey, Steven's face. You can tell. Like I was sitting there, he's like this. It's
Coming.
like I thought he was gonna do a little banana clip, just come in with a little pop, 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 just a couple.
no, I'm just grateful. It's cool, man. Like how I mentioned, I'll close on this. This has been the coolest experience because I felt as if I lived my past life and my current life all in one. And it's just so rewarding to be here with the people who even brought me here. So, man, thank you both.
Yes,
Hey,
I feel
yeah,
that.
you can cry, Steven. You can cry.
After, after.
All right,
We'll hold
we're
the
out here.
tears.
We love you. We love you. Thanks, Amber. Man, did we just dive into it? Amber Torrealba, that was insane. We went into her roots in Palm Bay, Florida, becoming a 3-time world champion skimboarder, trials and tribulations, and just the synergies and like the stepping and the grinding in her life that took her to 1.7 million followers on TikTok. She's one of the best creators I know. We went down lanes of relationships, growth, hardships and pushing through it all. Radio Shack, baby. Does anyone even know what a Radio Shack is? I don't know if they're even around anymore, but they managed that. And Steven, our boy, jumped into just well-round, long-time friendships behind the scenes, but from social media, content creation, being a top athlete, and just piecing things together to create your dream. Hope you guys enjoy this. Time to Breathe. You can check us out at Time to Breathe Pod, and I love you guys. We out.